Take it away, Gordon.
Excellent. Welcome everyone to Bitcoin Australia. Coming to you live from around the world tonight. Kieran Nolan in Melbourne, Oliver White down in Melbourne also, Lucas Cullen from Brisbane, myself, Agnes Water 1770, and Abheeti Kathryn Pass all the way from Italy. I don't think Chris, who is on his way to El Salvador tonight, he might make it in from LA. But we'll see what happens.
I don't think so. I think he'll be exhausted.
So yeah, pretty exciting days in the world of Bitcoin today. So yeah, let's. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty interesting conversation. But hey, we put on tonight's event just to have the opportunity for everyone to learn a bit about mining, share some experiences about mining, all the way from home mining. Not just necessary for a monetary aspect, for just supporting the network aspect, right through to I guess what you call custody mining, and then to large scale commercial operations. So I'd like to welcome our special guests, Kieran Nolan.
Thanks, Gordon.
Tell us where you're from, Kieran.
Yeah, so from Melbourne, done a whole bunch of stuff in the Bitcoin space for years. Built I think the world's first and probably only student-centric Bitcoin learning space in a primary school here. And yeah, now doing a whole bunch of cool stuff with Gordon and the Digital Playhouse and working with Amber as well. So we've got a podcast with them called #GetOffZero. So definitely worth checking out. If you guys wouldn't mind, I'm also doing my TAE. So I'm like learning how to write an accredited course specifically for Bitcoin, and it's quite difficult. So it's been interesting for the last couple of months doing that. But I've got an assessment coming up, and I've got to run some kids next week at tapes of some cybersecurity kids through asymmetric encryption, and I'm going to use Bitcoin specifically for that. So it's just a 10-minute presentation. Would you guys mind being guinea pigs for that tonight? If I run through it, just my slides, and just give us some feedback and let me know if it's like palatable for people who haven't heard about Bitcoin before.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Awesome. All right, cool.
I'm in.
All right, one second.
Awesome. So we'll just do a quick intro. Lucas, you're from?
Yeah, I'm up for Brisbane. So I guess from this point, well, not representing Firmus, but I do have interest in Firmus Grid or Firmus, as they're rebranded now. So a large scale miner down in Tasmania using renewables. So I was on a contract with those guys, or a shareholder to be accurate. Yeah, rolling out, like I said, we rolled out about 7,000 Bitmain miners down there. Right before COVID hit, unfortunately, it was very hands-on. So flying down to Tasmania wasn't allowed during COVID. So unfortunately, I got rolled off the project and I had to get some local talent down there. But I got a bit of got some shares in it, and it's going quite well. And happy to talk about that and the scale they're doing, and trying to change the narrative on Bitcoin consuming too much power, because it's actually renewables are one of the cheapest ways to run mines. So trying to give some real world experience into that.
Nice Abheeti. That's pretty much up your alley as to your interests. Tell us about what you're up to.
Yeah, so it's Abheeti, just so it makes it easier for you, because I know I've got a shitty name to remember and pronounce. So anyway, yeah, and then anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so I am working with what was the miner network. It's now being rebranded to another thing, and we're looking at creating a currency which is basically inflation proof, so that regardless of what all the nasty pasties are doing in the bigger agendas, we can all buy bread and put food on the table and honor our rental payments or mortgages or whatever it is. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, part of my work there was to do some deep research into this whole, what I call, well, it's called greenwashing, and especially around the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance. And a lot of those directives are passed down by the same organizations that are creating other narratives, which have made life very uncomfortable recently as well. So when you really dig deeper, you can see that while we want to do our best to take care of the planet, and that's central to the work that I do, we need to be careful that we don't get greenwashed by these holier than thou organizations that are claiming things which are simply not true.
Oh, thanks for that. That's awesome. So yeah, I'm Gordon Christian from Digital Playhouse in Agnes Water, working on a project with Kathryn, Oliver White, and a bunch of other people called the School of Bitcoin. And yeah, we're onboarding and educating people in this space. So we're all about financial literacy as one of the key pillars of our learning, which we're not getting in the mainstream system. So anyway, I'll hand it over to Kathryn and he can run us through a little encryption course. We'll get into mining, and yeah, don't be afraid to speak up, put your hand up. If you've got some questions, drop them in the chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is an interactive thing. So whoever, I know we only need 8 people, but I think we've got a lot more in here. So whoever wants to participate, more than welcome. And I've got a lot of mining stuff to talk about after this as well. So yeah, basically what I'm running through is implementing secure encryption technologies. So it's a unit of competency that some cybersecurity students are going to run through. So yeah, if you guys can give me feedback on if this will work for them, that would be fantastic. So I've got my website. So if you go to katieNolan.com, at the top I've posted, I've got a bunch of links to some tools that we can use to learn about asymmetric encryption today. So if you've got a device, whether it's a phone or a computer, you can scan that QR code or type that in, and you'll hopefully see my face pop up with a bunch of links that you can click on. So there's 3 key concepts that I want everyone to take away today. One is what a private key is, one is what a public key is, and one is what a transaction hash is. And if you can get those 3 things right in your mind, that would be amazing. Now, I've run this course through actually with 10-year-olds who've picked it up, and then I've run it through at EduTech with a whole room full of teachers for a masterclass. Which ones do you reckon did better? The 10-year-olds, right? But anyway, so I'll try and make it as easy as possible to understand. So there's a quick video tutorial on asymmetric encryption, and then we're going to pick this apart on how it revolves around Bitcoin or relates to Bitcoin.
Encryption is the process of taking a message and
Can you hear that okay?
Yep, come through.
Cool.
scrambling. Encryption is the process of taking a message and scrambling its contents so that only certain people can look at your message. There are 2 types of encryption, symmetric and asymmetric encryption. Let's first take a look at symmetric encryption to understand why asymmetric encryption was created. To do that, let me introduce you to Alice and Bob. Alice has a sensitive document that she wants to share with Bob. She uses an encryption program to protect her document with a password or passphrase that she chooses. She then sends the encrypted document to Bob. However, Bob cannot open this message because he doesn't know the passphrase that Alice used to encrypt the document. In other words, he doesn't have the key to open the lock. Now comes the real problem. How does Alice share this passphrase securely with Bob? Sending it through email is risky because others might find the passphrase and use it to decrypt any messages between Alice and Bob. This is exactly the kind of problem that asymmetric encryption intends to solve. It is comparable to a mailbox on the street. The mailbox is exposed to anyone who knows its location. We can say that the location of the mailbox is completely public. Anyone who knows the address can go to the mailbox and drop in a letter. However, only the owner of the mailbox has a key to open it up and read the messages. So let's now go back to technical details. When using asymmetric encryption, both Alice and Bob have to generate a key pair on their computers. A popular and secure way for doing this is by using the RSA algorithm. This algorithm will generate a public and private key that are mathematically linked to each other. Public keys can be used to encrypt data, and only the matching private key can be used to decrypt it. Even though the keys are linked together, they cannot be derived from each other. In other words, if you know someone's public key, you cannot derive his private key. If we retake our mailbox example, then the mailbox's address would be the public key, something that everyone is allowed to know. The owner of the mailbox is the only one who has the private key, and that is needed to open up the mailbox. Let's now take a look at how Alice and Bob can use asymmetric encryption to communicate securely with each other. They start by exchanging their public keys. Bob gives his public key to Alice, and Alice gives her public key to Bob. Now Alice can send her sensitive document again. She takes the document and encrypts it with Bob's public key. She then sends the file to Bob, who uses his private key to unlock the document and read it. Because they use asymmetric encryption, only Bob is able to decrypt the message. Not even Alice can decrypt it because she doesn't have Bob's private key. The strength and security of the asymmetric encryption now relies on Alice and Bob to keep their private keys well protected. If an attacker steals Alice's private key, it can be used to decrypt all messages that are intended for Alice. However, the attacker cannot decrypt messages that were sent by Alice because that requires Bob's private key. Asymmetric encryption is used in a lot of places where security really matters. You might not be aware of it, but every time you visit a secure website via HTTPS, you're actually using asymmetric encryption. It's also being used to securely send emails with the PGP protocol. And one last example, Bitcoin also uses asymmetric encryption to make sure that only the owner of a money wallet can withdraw or transfer money from it.
So not your keys, not your coin. That's where that phrase comes from.
Encryption is the
Oh, goodness. So to reiterate, a private key is a secret number that is used in cryptography similar to a password. In cryptocurrency, private keys are used to sign transactions. The inverse is a public key, which allows you to receive cryptocurrency transactions. It's a cryptographic code that's paired to a private key. So what I want everyone to do, if you can, is this really cool website. It's great for learning and great for spinning up a new Bitcoin address that's really disposable for the most part. But if you go to wallet.bitamp.com, it's actually a link on my website as well. If you have it up, you can create a new Bitcoin address like that. And these guys are actually working on Lightning as well. So once that's up and running, I reckon this is going to be the go-to learning tool. So you'll see two options here. One's for a seed phrase, which everyone here is probably aware of and how that works, but most people that's kind of more advanced, or private key. So if you click on private key, so like in the video, that's what it looks like here. So that weird string of numbers and letters, you want to save that. So if you can copy that and put it into a text document somewhere and keep it safe, like they did in the vault in the video. So you've saved that, cool. I'm going to put it up here so everyone can see my private key, which is you're not meant to do. Save, and then paste. I've written down my code, yes. And then you've got a Bitcoin wallet, just like that. So no signing up to installing apps or anything. They've actually got a Android app as well, I think. But the fact you can spin it up in your browser is just amazing, I think, like to teach people. So now we've got that wallet. So hopefully everyone here has got something similar on their screen. And with that, what you can do is see your public key. So that's that series of numbers and letters there. So it's a bit of a smaller one. So what you can do with that now is copy that. And what I want everybody to do, if you can, is on the next slide. Sorry, what am I doing? Too many slides. If you just go from my website, there's a link to Padlet. So
I've just dropped them in the link.
Yeah, beautiful.
Dropped them in the chat.
Whoa, there's a lot in there. Or that's from today and yesterday. So what you can do in here is on the bottom right hand, if you can click on the little plus button and just put your name. So just put your first name. Here. And then paste your address in there and then publish it. So what then I can do is actually send you guys some Bitcoin. So all the addresses in here, assuming everybody's kept their private key safe, I can send them some BTC. Now we won't do it in real time because it's, it takes 10 minutes for transactions on chain. But once they do Lightning for this, it's going to be a game changer, I reckon. So if everyone can start doing that, that would be awesome. While we're doing that, there's one more skill that I wanted you guys to learn. So going back to, I don't even need my slides, going back to this website here. So remember there was 3 things that we wanted to learn today. There was the private key, public key, and transaction hash. So we've done the private key and public key, and you guys have posted your public keys in the, or hopefully you're not posting your private keys in the Padlet there. But this website is going to show us what a transaction hash is. So this website lets us look at all the Bitcoin transactions in real time going on the internet, and it does it in a really cool visual way with these crazy balls jumping all over the place. Whoa, that was a big one gone past. But what you can actually do, let's have a look at this one. So that is 74 Bitcoin. Geez, that's a lot of money. Well, actually less today, I suppose. But if you look at the top there, there's the transaction hash. So it's an even longer string of numbers and letters. So that's what's called a unique identifier in the network. And remember back to the video when Alice and Bob were sending a message to each other? Whoa, look at that one. That message looks like that on the Bitcoin network. So that's the message. And then you have your 2 public keys. So Alice and Bob have their 2 public keys, which you guys are posting into the Padlet. And then your private key is held private, as the name would suggest to yourself. So there's your 3 things: your transaction hash, your public key, your private key. And I'll leave it there. Thanks, guys. There's a feedback form as well. If you could fill it out, actually, I'll put it in the thing to give us some feedback on that. But what do you reckon in terms of onboarding new people who may have never heard of the technology before and getting like a bit of an understanding?
It looks really simple. Oh, go on.
No, sorry, please go on.
Oh, thanks, Oliver. I was going to say it looks really simple. I've lost my face. There I am. The only thing I would be cautioning people about in terms of cybersecurity is copying and pasting that key and storing it somewhere that anyone else can find it on their computer, especially in light of the Optus hacks. So you might just want to mention that as a one-liner.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a huge thing. Good feedback. I think, yeah, well, this group's got to be cybersecurity students, so they'll probably pick that apart. But yeah, I think that's really important. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you have to sort of dance the line between, signing people up to a new account versus, or, it's always usability versus security. But I think using this is a good sort of intermediate tool, and then you can do hardware wallets and all the rest of it down the track, sort of thing. But I've posted a link in the chat, guys. If you could, just while we're going through stuff, fill that out. That would be super cool. But yeah, any other real-time feedback before we jump into
Yeah, I guess from my point of view, I guess it's depending on your target here, but obviously creating things online should be not encouraged. Even looking at the source code and even perhaps even disconnecting. And I mean, again, depending on how deep we want to go, that the address isn't a public key, it's a public key hash. Yeah. And that is different. So, not to discredit if you're making it simple, then that's fine. But yeah, there's some other nuances there. And I noticed they're one base. So interesting. But yeah, anyway, as I said, good intro nonetheless. But and I think, again, depending on the audience, the difference between asymmetrics and signing is 2 different things. So again, the premise is fine, but yeah, there is some nuances there, and depending on
nuances, yeah, for sure.
The target there. So security students might actually look at that and say, hang on, there's a you've missed a trick. So maybe clarifying that.
Good advice.
Yeah, I was thinking with the security aspect, or security students, perhaps even introducing them to PGP and sending messages through like Notepad, and just like simply just encrypting stuff like that might even show them the whole public key, private key, and the importance of actually holding a private key safe, like even on a floppy disk. somewhere in a safe type of thing, kind of, yeah, just very safe type of on 2 bits of
Yeah.
paper type of thing, or
No, my only issue is I've got 10 minutes to break down something really complex. But yeah, no, that's good as well. I would like to do PGP as well. I think that's really important and overlooked a lot, I think. All right. Should we kick on to some mining? And let me bring this up. All right. Orange is the real green. I love that title. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I want to kick off with this today because I think this is so important. So the hash rate for the network, for the BTC network, is at an all-time high today as of this morning. That second graph there, overlapping it, is the price. There's something not right with that. It looks like it's manipulated, right? Like, I mean, there's so many people willing to put energy into the network to earn BTC, and the price isn't reflected. And I think it's probably got something to do with these centralized exchanges. But I think realistically, we need to stop looking at price altogether and focus on hash rate. I think hash rate is the key metric to look at because it's the power of the network, it's the security of the network. And yeah, I think it's more exciting to think about how many people are physically building stuff to collaborate on the network. So I wanted to kick off with that, but I think it's really important for all of us to keep sort of in the back of our minds. All right. So Alpha Hash Rate's a company that I've co-founded with Chris, who's actually on his way to El Salvador. So he said he was going to try and jump in, but I was fairly confident he'd be too exhausted to come in tonight. If you want to check it out, it's alphahashrate.com. And basically what we have is an array of solar and shipping containers in Adelaide. And miner cost average, that was something we were tinkering with. So instead of DCAing, MCAing, I think it's a kind of cool term. But basically what we have is shipping containers with immersion cooling, which is really awesome technology. So basically, instead of, if you've ever seen a Bitcoin miner, particularly one of the bigger ones, like I've got here, like a Watts miner, they're really loud and they're really, really hot. So the amount of heat that comes out of them is just crazy. Immersion mining basically takes all the noise away and takes all the heat away and makes it so you can overclock them as well. So like, yes. And it's basically all the FUD around when noise pollution and heat pollution goes out the window when you start talking about immersion mining. And yeah, really fascinating tech and sort of how it works. Skip through. Oh, sorry. The other part to this is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the company Compass, but Compass is basically doing hosted racks to set up your miners, and you're basically renting space to put your miner in. So I was using their company last year, and one of their facilities in Oklahoma where my miner was, actually, I think they just didn't pay the power bill, and so the facility just like confiscated all the hardware, which was like my hardware, not Compass's hardware, sort of thing. So yeah, not that cool. And I felt quite helpless because it was like, the other side of the world, not allowed to travel, and I'm like, what? I want my miner. Like this sucks. So it was kind of like, God, 4 months plus emailing back and forth, tweeting them, saying like, yeah, what's going on? Eventually they shipped me like hardware that I've got here. But I think I'm gonna send it to to this space to actually get it set up. But basically what we want to do is take a very similar model to that. So like renting space out to people who want to do immersion mining specifically, and maybe look at overclocking as well in a safe way, in Australia specifically. So like, you're not having to deal with, companies overseas and cloak and dagger stuff and chasing people up on Twitter, but doing it or whatever platform it is, but doing it here specifically. So setting up an array and doing a really sort of fair price to get people up and mining and getting off 0 hash rate. I think it's really important. So it's something we're really excited about. If you want to find out more, jump onto the website and send us some emails. We've kind of, it's taken a bit of a backseat because of the one, construction was a bit delayed, and 2, out of the blue, like all the prices for electricity just kind of went through the roof. But I think that's getting settled now, so we should be on track to keep going with that. So super excited for that. The other thing that I'm super excited about, and Tiggs, who's here, Ollie introduced me to this. God, when did we get him, Ollie? Was it like a year ago?
Probably, about a year and a half, maybe.
Year and a half, maybe.
But it was a little bit of waiting time, so yeah.
Yeah. So basically, these are home miners that you can set up. Actually, Ollie, do you want to talk about them? Because you're the one that found these guys. I think they're amazing.
They're basically just home miners, but they come in different kind of kits, and there's pretty much just a simple mining kind of ASIC, which is actually got quite a bit of grunt behind it and is quite efficient, I think, according to pretty much the metrics that are going around currently.
Low
And
heat.
and it's uses about 200 watts or even 150 watts, depending on how much power you want to route to it. And you can use up to, I think, 400 watts even to really pump the hash rate up quite efficiently. And I've actually got a mate who got one, and he's automated it with his home solar and such as well, in a sense that when the sun is up, it mines harder, and when the sun is down, it mines less, and it pretty much is just in sync with the planet, I guess.
That's
And
awesome.
that's very cool. And I think
need to get him into one of these chats.
we do, really do. But these things are just incredible in terms of being I think I'm sorry, someone was speaking earlier about mining, could have been, and just using it pretty much for the heating purposes. But with this, it's actually feasible to actually possibly mine and actually maybe make a small profit. But even when you're using just consuming 200 watts or 150 watts of power, you can kind of calculate that into your budget a lot easier than 3,000 watts, for example, and still support the network in a huge way by mining and also validating transactions as a Bitcoin node as well, which is
that's a good point. Actually,
you can
it's
do
a
on the
node
side.
inbuilt into it as well. And the really cool thing is you can daisy chain them. So you set up your one with the node, and then you can get the smaller ones that talk to it as well. So I've got behind this camera, actually outside, I've got a mining tent. So actually it's like a grow tent. It's so funny, like when we get people out to the house, they think I'm growing marijuana or something. I'm like, no, there's like there's servers in there. Nobody believes me. Like there's computers in there. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I've got, I think, 14 terahash with them daisy chained in there. So nothing to sneeze at to be able to run that. And then I've got a Tesla battery here as well. So with the solar, I can kind of go a couple of hours either side of the sun and make a profit off it. So yeah, highly recommend these. They're very, very cool and easy to set up too. Super easy.
So just a question about that. You got the standard package, and then you've got the a full node package.
Yes, the full node package is pretty much got its own operating system that they've created, and it's just pretty much for node management and such. But it's not quite the node setups that you would find like on Raspberry Pi or Ubuntu with like Citadel or Umbrel. They're
it's not as cool.
more complicated and much more funky, I would have to say.
Yeah, like it's not Lightning enabled or anything.
But this one seems to just be there purely for the purposes of propagating the Bitcoin network and the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the two versions is one with the node that's like your main one, and then the cheaper ones you can plug into that and sort of daisy chain them along. as long as you got one full node. But yeah, pretty cool and a pretty cheap way to get up and rocking. Although I've seen them going crazy expensive on eBay recently. I'm like, what? How are they going?
Oh
so
yeah, actually with a Raspberry Pi or even a Windows computer, I think if you have one lying around, you can, I'm quite sure, just through a USB connection, get one of the ASICs working without the main node or the main computer. So you just need a separate power supply or the power supply that they include with it.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. So you don't even need to get the full node off them.
No, not at all. So it can actually be a lot more affordable that way then.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. That's awesome. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I got a Tesla Powerwall here. I've got 19 kilowatt solar. So for the miners I've got here, I was mining Ethereum as well, or Ethereum to BTC here. I've just kind of stopped doing that and given the hardware to my parents to play around with, because they were interested in mining. But yeah, like with that, with the two, it was still profitable to run. Just either about an hour or 2 hours either side of the sun going down, and yeah, it's still profitable. So I'd highly recommend a Tesla battery, and you can do all sorts of funky stuff with it, like in terms of timing and all that sort of stuff. But Ollie, like what you were saying with your friend, automatically changing the like how much power they're drawing, that sounds like it's really worthwhile doing.
Yeah, amazing home automation like stuff going on there.
Hell yeah,
It's
hell yeah.
really a bleeding edge, I think.
Very cool indeed. So yeah, actually someone mentioned heating. So I've got my tent, it looks like this, like sitting outside. But this guy's actually doing it and pumping the heat through his house, which is very clever, which I think I might look at doing in the summertime here. So at the other side of my house, I'm going to look at building a shed specifically for the Watts miner, and yeah, pumping that heat like in the house, because my partner, like, it's always a battle here for the aircon versus the heater. I hate the heater, but she loves it. So if I can make some money off that, that's I think that's the way to go. This is what I was talking about before. So two miners, if you haven't checked these guys out, it's pretty cool. So you can basically mine like Ethereum Classic, for example, or Ravencoin or whatever, using GPUs. So if you got a bunch of GPUs or a GPU setup, even just like one GPU, like one 3080 or something, you can make a fairly decent profit off that in terms of sats. So they give you Satoshis, so Bitcoin for mining whatever cryptocurrency it is. So definitely worth looking at if that's all the hardware you have access to, or if that's the only way you can sort of earn BTC or mine BTC. I reckon go for it. The only detractor is you're not contributing to the hash rate. So that first slide that I had, looking at the all-time high for hash rate, this won't contribute to that. So it means you're not securing your own Bitcoin while doing it. So ethically, it's probably not the best thing to be doing, but if that's all you can afford and this is your starting point, I reckon go for it. There's heaps of tutorials online about that as well. Monero mining is the other one I wanted to touch base on. So I think this is something still really viable as well, and it's basically zero KYC, so no your customer stuff, and you can get up mining really quickly as well. So they've got some pretty good tutorials out there. And it's CPU based, meaning you're not going to be using the same, it's not going to draw the same energy as an ASIC miner or a even GPUs. It's really low power, and yeah, I think it's a great project that I think a lot of Bitcoiners sort of overlook. And there's a really cool wallet that you can utilize. I think you can actually even use like two miners to mine Monero to BTC, but in this instance, it's probably worth helping the hash rate of the Monero network anyway. And there's a wallet called Cake Wallet where you can actually do atomic swaps to BTC, and they've got a whole listing for that, and it's really simple to use. So basically install Cake Wallet, you got your mining coming to that wallet, and then you can swap it to BTC like within a few minutes. Like, it's really quick. So yeah, I think that's really worth looking at as well. And there's a gradient list of CPUs and people rating them online, that's worth looking at as well. So if you want to go and buy a decent CPU and a rig for that, I mean, it's not going to be the same outlay as getting in a bunch of ASICs or a mining tent or any of that sort of stuff. You just set it up and in your house and away you go, sort of thing. Lastly, I wanted to touch base on stacks mining. Now,
Kieran, do you just go to the Monero get started mining site for that? Getmonero.org.
so there's, oh God, I've forgotten now.
I think monerohash.com is a good one.
Monero hash, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So it should actually bring it up. Bring it up here.
I
So that's that, but there's a website that actually compares your CPUs as well. Anyway, we can find it and send out a link to it.
And I just wanted to ask, I don't know if it's appropriate to be asking questions now or at the end.
Oh, of course, yeah, go for it.
fire away.
Okay. Yeah, because I was interested in what you said. You know, I'm in Northern Europe where we just got a €600 electricity bill for the last month, which is, you know, what, $900. So it's
Yuck.
it's nuts here. We're renting, so there's no question of solar power and stuff. What's the Monero one like in terms of consumption?
So it's CPU based. So basically,
Oh, yeah.
it's like running a computer. So you're not. I mean, it's probably a little bit more intensive, but it's not going to be like something like this or even one of these guys. It's literally just your device sitting on. So you can set up today. Have you got a PC? Like,
No, we're all
tower?
laptops because we're backpackers. But yeah, we could organize that.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing. And yeah, having a look at the different CPUs that have a good return on them. I think there's a bunch just launched actually. So I think Team Red have just come out with a bunch of killer CPUs that are worth looking into. I haven't looked in a little while, but yeah, there's probably heaps of info out there. This is probably the website to get started. It's a Monero hash, but I've got heaps of notes somewhere. So ping me afterwards and I'll find them for you. We can.
Thank you.
I can help you out. So finally, two last things actually, and then I'll hand over to Lucas. So mining with proof of transfer. So I still haven't done this or really wrapped my head around it, but as far as I can understand with stacks, you can start mining as long as you have Bitcoin and you're locking it up to earn more Bitcoin. Actually, Gordon, can you clarify that? Am I saying the right thing?
Yeah, no, actually what you do for proof of transfer, the miner spends Bitcoin. So a stacks miner spends Bitcoin, and that spend, the Bitcoin gets paid out to stackers of the stacks coin. And then the miner of stacks actually receives back stacks. So it's every time that a miner wants to mine stacks, they've got to spend Bitcoin. So it's a continuous spend of Bitcoin, and the rewards go back out to the stackers. So yeah, I've got stacks stacked. You know, I'm stacking stacks. I guess you could call it stacking stacks, and
That's
right. I get Bitcoin rewards all the time. So it's my way of getting some more Bitcoin. But I've got stacks.
Yes, sorry, I had that wrong in my head. So it's the inverse of what I said.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, you know, I want stacks because I want to be able to do some smart contracts, and I use stacks smart contracts because they're secured by Bitcoin. I guess they're, you know, the process of the mechanism of the consensus is connected to Bitcoin. Every transaction that's created on the Stacks blockchain is also recorded on the Bitcoin blockchain. So yeah, it's a lot of probably a deeper dive on that in another session, but
yeah, that's cool. So yeah, basically what we're doing with the Score Bitcoin pool is stacking to get BTC, and then the miners put BTC to earn stacks. So it's like a symbiotic thing. That makes sense. Cool. So yeah, that's another option. I don't reckon they should have used the term mining. They should have called it something else, because it's kind of confusing, because everyone's used to mining as being like hardware based, and yeah, this is kind of not that, but whatever. So anyway, you can mine stacks with that anyway. Finally, I wanted to talk about this one. So if you've got no money whatsoever, this game's actually gone free. So there's a game me and a group of kids from my school actually wrote the script for. It was funny how it came about. So a number of years ago, was that 2019? Jeez. It's a really nice guy in the photo here. We reached out to him and said, look, we've been doing all sorts of cool Bitcoin stuff at our school, but we're not allowed to mine because it's like government hardware. You can't mine here, but we want to learn about it. And yeah, we were reading up on this website, Mickey, and they made this game. I mean, like, can we get a copy of the game so we can, start learning about it? And he said, like, got back to, he's like, yeah, we can give you a copy, but the narrative's not really for kids. It's like somebody's been kidnapped and, you need to earn Bitcoin to whatever. So like, oh, okay. And he's like, but you could write a new narrative for us if you want, like an education version. So these girls in the photo did, and it's got my voiceover and the principal's voiceover. And yeah, now it's free, I think, on Steam. So if you want to check it out, you can learn how to mine Bitcoin and yeah, hear me in the background and my principal in the background if you want. But yeah, it's quite cool. It was such a cool project that yeah, these girls are really, really proud of it, and yeah, so was I. So yeah, worth checking out. Anyways, I'll oh yeah, questions. I'll shut up. Any questions?
I think there's a few questions around Bitcoin mining for me, and talking to some of our crew around Agnes here is one, I can mine for monetary reasons, but if it's not gonna, I think one of the people on chat tonight will say they might be losing money. Why would I want to mine some Bitcoin? Why would I mine Bitcoin?
Well, one, I think altruistically for the network. So like if you think about the Bitcoin network in terms of security, the more hash power that's on the network, the more security it is. So it's harder and harder to break it. So if you own any Bitcoin, I think it's kind of your responsibility to get off zero hash rate as well, to contribute to the security of the network. Secondly, I think zooming out and looking at your sort of time preference, and yeah, the price is low at the moment, but one Satoshi is still one Satoshi. So if you can find a way to mine sustainably, and which I think most people are doing, like you're kind of forced to, and I think most people want to anyway. So the whole narrative about it being bad for the environment and rah rah rah, I think that's, I mean, it's been silly for a long time, and it seems to be getting even sillier. But I think specifically, like with that, like you have an opportunity there to sort of to mine BTC or stack sats when other people aren't, I suppose. But that being said, I suppose the hash rate's getting higher and higher, but you kind of have to get in. So yeah, get off zero.
So why don't we head over to Lucas to talk about some commercial mining, because that's going to bring in a few things. Why? First, to create Bitcoin. Second, to balance out energy systems. Third, you guys are operating in a completely green environment, I guess, like as in, or should I say, yeah. So take it away, Lucas.
Yeah, thanks, Christian and Kieran. I'll just see if I can screen share. So yeah, it looks like I can, which is great. So yeah, like I said, I was involved with a company called Firmus. They're still going and doing quite well. So one of the, I guess the thesis was Firmus was industrial mining. In Tasmania, one of the problems, and this is, I guess, not what upsets me, but is a misconception in the public that one Bitcoin uses too much renewables. But I was naive to this too, but the problem with the renewables is actually not enough demand. So Firmus was actually engaged by the Tasmanian government to say, hey, when there's what you call FCAS events, so when there's an overproduction of renewables, who can take the load off the grid? And what the government or the energy market actually do is they actually pay you to take that energy off the grid. So we were getting, I have to make sure I'm not spilling too much public information or private information because there's NDAs, of course. So I'll try to Google as much and talk to that. But I think it's because it's an open energy market. You can look at this, that some of these events can be up to $15,000 per megawatt hour. So if anyone can put forward another industry or another opportunity where you can take that much load off the grid instantaneously, and not only that, get paid for it, then convert that into Bitcoin or another form of currency, then, you know, like I'll look at that. But I can't think of any other industry or domain that can take that much load instantaneously. Smelters take weeks to spin up, hospitals are whatever, data centers, you can't shut them down. So my remit for Firmus Grid was to control the miners through sockets and APIs, look for energy markets, and then send packets across the wire to fluctuate the frequency and voltage of the miners, as someone said before with their home appliance scenario. So there's a lot of challenges with it. You know, for one, we bought 7,000 Bitmain miners. They don't open source the hardware, so we actually had to reverse engineer the C+ code to put markers in it to try and, with the Bitmain miners, they have all these startup programs and stuff, so we have to break that out and just basically control the voltage on the board. End up being very successsul. So I did find this slide here in the AFR financial review. So when I rolled off the project, as mentioned, because of COVID, we were at about 3% of the network hash off memory. This article here says we're doing 480 petahash. We were producing, when Bitcoin was $80,000, we were mining a Bitcoin at $3,000. So 90% profitable per Bitcoin. Again, I think we mined 145 coins per quarter. And then, like I said, 2022, we're getting up to mining 20 Bitcoin per day. So this is large scale stuff. So I went through some photos here again to make sure there's public. So again, going the shipping container stuff, these shipping containers are immaculate, all plumbed in nicely, as you can see, all immersion cooling. This was the scale. We actually bought I think a $2 million plant right next to a 60 megawatt substation to get, you know, the electricity straight from the source. I've got a few photos here if I can find them around the immersion tech. So same kind of narrative. These tanks were up to, I think, 400,000 per tank. We had about 40 of them, hosting 48 miners per tank. You know, like I said, pretty crazy numbers, pretty crazy industrial stuff. I can't find the, but again, it's quite funny because it's still considered a startup. So we're working all night, unpacking 7,000 miners. We're actually taking all the fan kits and stuff off them, putting all the immersion. So this is one of the videos of just the scale of this stuff. And on it goes. And yeah, like I said, it's pretty massive project. You know, like I said, like people Kieran's saying, supporting the network hash. So, you know, like I said, 3% of the network hash is on-prem down in Tasmania using renewables, converting excess electricity. We need to be clear about that because, you know, there is a market for excess electricity, and anyone can bid into that market and take that load off, and it's up to you to what to do with it. And we saw the opportunity to convert that into Bitcoin. And when we, again, I'm not the electrician, we had a few engineers on there, but again, there's a talk of, there's a submariner cable between Tasmania and to Melbourne. There's, I think, a 30 megawatt cable. The government want to roll out 2 300 megawatt cables, so basically a 20x supply to the mainland on that. The irony is, as mentioned, because when there's no load or demand, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning when everyone's asleep, what do you do with that electricity? So we can actually turn on the miners, take that load off, and be like a dampener on the grid and take that electricity off. Otherwise, you know, you like I said, you can't have this excess electricity. So really exciting, still going. They're going to be ASX listed next year, which is going to be crazy. And yeah, like I said, it's really disheartening when you hear these narratives about electricity and the use of Bitcoin, because I was naive to it till when I got on it, and there's a massive opportunity for Neurable to play a big part in this, and I think that'll be the competitive advantage. Like I said, we're mining at 90% profitability, so the smart money will be in using renewables to mine Bitcoin. So yeah, like I said, really exciting projects to be part of.
That's awesome, Lucas. So is that a water cooled system or a liquid oil based?
Yeah, it was 60 degree, I think average 60 degree oil temperature. Actually, just quickly, I think I found one of these. I was just trying to find some of the videos, but they were a bit old. So this is with our thermo gun
Cool.
going through it. And
awesome.
So we also looked at, recovering that heat. So on average, it's 60 degrees Celsius. The oil, so can you reclaim that heat? Another thing, so at the moment they're just dumping through a turbine, I think, but then can you, like, there's actually a laundry and stuff next door, can we use that to heat their premise, as the other speakers said, but as an industrial scale? So it just comes down to numbers in those things. Is it just better to dump it out to the air, thermocool, or try and reclaim that heat, or make secondary markets off that? So like I said, massive engineering project. It was a $100 million plant. So we're buying Bitmains by 7,000. The other thing is we actually then rolled out our own silicon. So we engaged a Tasmanian company down there, rolled our own silicon. Last I heard, we're going to fab in Thailand or something. So again, getting off any Chinese or any third parties, any counter risk there. All homegrown, all Australian. Tanks made out of Canberra. I hope it's going to be a really successful product, and be part of a world player, and like I said, homegrown product.
When I was doing some research just on Firmus, there is that have they got anything? Does that also integrate with the Firmus data centers down there, or is that a different company?
No, it's all Firmus data centers. So they went, again, because you're talking to people less educated. Bitcoin's still a dirty word, so they call it data centers. But they have a partner with NVIDIA and with Red Hat to do GPU processing, all other opportunities like that. But I guess tonight we're talking about Bitcoin, so yeah, who cares about GPU?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting use case. I think I saw one of the either the mayor or one of the ministers from down there talking about processing video data and the likes through that center, which is like using data centers on scale to process video versus then on a couple of PCs. Yeah,
there's an article too again that like the biggest supercomputer we have is out of Canberra or something, and they're going to be like 2x or 5x that already. Obviously, using some of the profits from Bitcoin and that into other industries and spreading it off. But yeah, it's interesting nonetheless, and I encourage people to have a read. And when we go public next year, it's going to be pretty exciting. But it's funny, just like I said, it's one of these best projects I've been on that no one knows about, and it's just a bit. It's going to be fun to talk about it and hopefully give it more attention.
Lucas, how many sort of blockchain or Bitcoin engineers would be involved in this in handling the software side of it?
Well, it was my remit at the start to orchestrate all those, looking for the things. I probably couldn't tell you what the team size is now, but like I said, it's just a bit annoying because at that start it was very on hands. We're sleeping on the floor kind of thing, literally plugging network cables in, doing whatever. So with COVID, we just couldn't get down there. So unfortunately, I got rolled off, but got a generous compensation with respect to shares, so that'll do quite well. But yeah, up and running. But like I said, the scale of things was just mind blowing, even to the point of cabling. Getting cables pre-cut, so you don't have to plug them in and cut on site. And the videos don't do it justice. You go down there and this thing is crazy. So I'm looking forward to get back there and seeing where they're at, and maybe report in, do a bit of a video with some of the Bitcoiners.
That's so cool. When are they going public?
Again, I'm just looking at public information. So the AFR is saying 2023, which makes sense from the investor reports I've heard. So
that'd be something definitely. I'd love to support that, and yeah, get some shares and help them out. That's definitely worthwhile. That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
So thanks for our presenters tonight. Look, we've got a great crew of people here tonight. Has anyone got some questions there?
everybody's muted. Have we got
No
people from
question.
all over the world here? It looks like we do.
From Sydney here.
Nice.
Abheeti, got any questions about the green mining side of things? Or have we've given you a lot of answers tonight?
I had some challenges around some assumptions, but that's a classic. Like, for example, Kieran, you were mentioning the Tesla battery, and throughout this there has been references to solar power and stuff, and so-called renewables, but there's an awful lot of exploration and extraction from the earth needed to create those batteries.
Yeah, true.
And that's largely ignored with the whole sort of Tesla narrative around not using fossil fuels, and yet to recharge the famous Tesla EVs, there is no control over whether the electricity is sourced through fossil fuel or carbon use or mining, sorry, or whether they really are using renewables for that. So there's a whole series of stuff that I think we need to be aware of in terms of even those so-called green renewable energies, because they themselves can be enormously destructive, especially in light of the deep sea mining, which is happening, of which I wrote a 4-part article, and it blew my mind how quickly the descent towards extinction of the planet and its inhabitants, animals, plants, and otherwise, is and could be happening. They're wanting to be able to have full license to start deep sea mining extraction, and they've already started within 2 to 3 years, which the implications for the planet are literally mind-boggling. So I think we need to bring that into the conversation. Not that I want to be a bummer on the whole thing.
No, I think it's super relevant. Up in my region here, we've got we're in the Gladstone region. We've got a lot of aluminium production. It's massive user of energy. We've got gas. I think we're the largest coal exporters in Australia. We've also got $70 billion worth of gas plants. And the narrative is the World Bank are requiring the industries like the larger aluminium smelters to be green, to have green aluminium. And I think it was 2050 originally, and now they're talking 2030. So in my region alone, I think there's over 20 wind and solar projects that are on the go when we've got abundance of energy here. And yeah, I have real concerns about the what's going to be done to create all of this renewable junk. And so, yeah, at the moment I'm going, well, look, at least I might be able to assist others in the planet by plugging in Bitcoin miners to help pay that stuff off quicker, support the Bitcoin network. It's a real dilemma of questions. I guess other people in different regions. I got some kickback from the Byron Bay Bitcoin chat about, the meetup and the Bitcoin. Why are we doing it? So it's good for everyone to hear to I think join those conversations. I always say to people, like, don't be scared of Bitcoin. Get in and learn about it. Have you done 200 hours? Have you done 10 hours research on Bitcoin? Have you done 20 hours or 200 hours? When you've done 200 hours of Bitcoin research and everything about the green side, what they're doing in Tasmania, and have a good balanced view. Because at the moment, we've got a decentralized network that's running 24/7. Anyone around the globe can jump on. It's free for anyone to use. There's no central control. It's like an amazing train that anyone can get on any time. So I think pretty much, if anyone's got any other questions, thanks to everyone sharing all their stories tonight. But yeah, feel free to jump in if you've still got some.
I did want to mention something because I too, I'm not anti-Bitcoin, but I think the whole notion of comparing apples to apples, because there was an ABC radio interview one Saturday morning, and the classic, oh, the green, blah, blah, blah. Somebody rang in and shat on me about, the state of Bitcoin mining and how it's destroying the earth, And so then, it brought up the whole discussion of being able to compare, okay, what's the cost of the petrodollar? What's that cost in human life? What's that cost in armaments, in mining and creation? you know, the Gulf Wars, what's going on in the Ukraine. I mean, I know that's a contentious subject, but basically there are world powers protecting their interests there and at the cost of human life. So I think that to say that Bitcoin mining is destroying the earth is just plain stupid. But I do think we need to keep our eyes open about the whole notion of renewables, because that just becomes another form of greenwashing.
Yeah, you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. And also, like, there's been a number of podcasts I listened to where a few on what Bitcoin did. I forget the guys that were on, but basically looking at BTC as the solution to you know, global warming and, you know, all these sort of green initiatives, ESG being one of them, I suppose. But the concept is basically, if you own X amount of Bitcoin, if we mandate that people have to mine that in a green way, that's better than just getting them to, you know, pay extra fiat money towards something. It's actually building out, incentivizing them to do the right thing, sort of thing. But yeah, in terms of like the narrative, we probably have to go, unfortunately, a bit on the attack, because I think, like, yeah, doing defensive and saying, oh, but we're green, like we're doing green stuff. It's like, no, they don't understand that the network isn't wasting any energy. They, like, in their mind, they think, oh, it's just computers that are just running for no reason. It's like, no, this is the most complex network that's ever been built in the history, maybe the best piece of technology that's ever been built in the history of humanity. And it's a network that's been up, never gone down, never been hacked. That you can't say that for anything else. That's worth protecting. And yeah, the people that don't understand that, they just haven't got that right in their minds yet. Like they haven't come to that conclusion. So I think if we can get that across without being aggressive,
Yeah.
in a nice way, if we can do that, that's the answer for sure.
I mean, I think I've got a quote here from Kathy Wood of ARC Investment Management. Now, who knows, you know, this could be, you know, everybody colors things to suit themselves. They get their own biases confirmed. But in this quote, it says, Bitcoin ecosystem consumes less than 10% of the energy compared to energy consumption of the traditional banking system. And there you can be looking at inflation and all of the, you know, taxation and the hidden form of inflation and all the implications of that. Then you can be looking at the actual, you know, the servers that are serving banking systems. You know, you can be looking at the lights that are on all night in city towers. So there's a lot more. There's a lot more that goes into the conversation in comparing the two worlds. You know, the fact that you've got somebody like Elon Musk going, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin because it's mining fossil fuels, is basically like, actually, I'm going to try and drive the price of Bitcoin down so me and my mates can buy more. On sale. But so I think we need to discuss the environmental impact of Tesla and SpaceX, and exactly what, you know, that two-facedness, that contradictory actions are. Banking wars, you know, the protection of the petrodollar, and also what actually, you know, in places like El Salvador, you know, we've got Bukele saying, okay, you know, we're going to mine using the thermal energy from our volcanoes. Well, that's pretty cool, because it, as far as I can see, it's not actually wasting anything. Like Lucas was saying, you're taking, you know, in the case of the Tasmanian project, you're taking a chunk of energy that would normally get wasted, well, and using that in a meaningful way. And apparently, just quickly, the states, apparently something like 45 to 58% of the energy that they create is wasted. So more than half of all of the fossil fuel energy created dissipates and does nothing.
Yep.
Except, you know, pollute the planet or create more difficulty for the planet. So yeah.
Bingo. Yeah, especially like El Salvador, you think about like the implications of doing that. He's essentially doing universal basic income over proof of work, right? It's like using a volcano. Like that's so cool. Like that's the fix, and that's like that breaks, like it shatters the whole left-right paradigm of people arguing about, you know, these silly things about the environment versus, you know, people who are, you know, say climate change doesn't exist. Rah, rah, rah. It's like, no, like Bukele's fix that. There's an example, and it doesn't matter like what side of the political side you're on it. So I think, yeah, you're right. Like that's such a cool example. And what's happening in Africa as well, I think that's amazing to see. In particular, like there's one video up on Twitter. I forget where it was in Africa, but anyway, these kids, like 10-year-old kids, using BTC. So they're given BTC specifically, a wallet of Satoshi, so software developed in Australia.
Yeah.
So given sats, and they created a circular economy. So it's like similar sort of story as El Salvador with Bitcoin Beach. But they gave them money and said, look, we're just going to give you money every week and just see what they do with it. So these kids, like as 10-year-olds would, or 11-year-olds, they went off and bought lollies and ice creams and nonsense for a couple of weeks. And these guys didn't step in and say, no, you can't do that. You have to buy this, this, and this. They just waited to see what would happen. And organically, they started buying healthier food. And then after a couple of weeks went past after that, they started going, oh, well, if we pool our resources, we can buy in bulk and then save even more Satoshis. Now, I can't tell you any kids in Australia that would be doing that. It's spend, right? It's like, here's your pocket money, it's gone. These kids learned by themselves how to save specifically because of the technology, and kind of leapfrogged everything else. So they're just using a smartphone and away you go. So the learning implications for countries that, you know, probably didn't have access to this sort of stuff previously, boom, they're miles ahead of us.
Well, Karen, I got a bit of a quick story, not Bitcoin, but my son came home with a bag of cash from school. He's 10. I said, what's this? He goes, oh, my friends can't buy Roblox or whatever. So he's money laundering. He's going around schools getting dollars and I'm paying with it. I said, but you missed the trick. You should be charging 10%.
That's an entrepreneur right there. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so it's funny. I put it on LinkedIn. Everyone's flaming me about, oh, you should be encouraged. It's like, give me a break. Like, he's seen an opportunity in the market. So his only downfall is he didn't charge a premium. So
that's so funny. That's so funny. Robux.
Well, in terms of a circular economy, the not charging a premium is actually a positive, because the premium is also based on this whole sort of consumeristic culture, which we're, you know, faster and faster spiraling towards some planetary extinction. So yeah, we all need to get money to live, but it could also be seen as a positive, Lucas, that your son is, you know, erring on the side of socialism.
Thinking outside the box there. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I also just quickly wanted to mention an article that I read this week about a family or people in Lebanon. And it quotes a guy called Yunus, who says, my family, like every single family member in Lebanon, has been really hurt by the whole devaluation and the currency crisis. So they're experiencing hyperinflation. So what they're doing, a series of people, there's one guy who's got mines all over Lebanon, but some people there are mining Bitcoin in order to have both an income and to hold a stable currency. And then between them doing peer-to-peer transactions to buy stuff and things. So
cool.
Yeah.
So cool. It does suck that we have to get to that point before people realize what the technology can do, right? Since we're like third world country, it'd be nice if we could just teach people and they'd get it here, but you have to have that pain point, unfortunately.
Well, I think we all, I mean, you're a teacher, I'm a teacher too, like we learn through experience. And if there's too much theory and if it's all just give, and you haven't actually paid the price to receive something, you know, like, do you know what I mean? For the first time in history, I also have, no, not quite a 10-year-old, but a 12-year-old, Lucas. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I remember my dad all through my childhood going, turn off the bloody lights. Jesus, you know, I'm paying the electricity here. And I can hear myself, turn off the lights. Well, now that we've got these crazy electricity bills, we're walking around the house, switching lights off. Like we're kind of like almost walking around with candles, you know, because it's so bloody expensive right now. So I think that sometimes you need to have the experience before things really make sense.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry about the swearing.
That's great.
Nah, go for it.
They're good stories. So one of the initiatives here we've got these meetups called Bitcoin Australia meetups that are once a month. Yeah, goal behind it sort of came out of the project called the School of Bitcoin that we're working on. And we'll drop that in the chat. It's just an open source information center for financial literacy. But so you can take a look around. You can jump in, join our Discord. It's we're there to get contributions. We're making some good ground. But the idea is also that if you're into town, wherever you are, is to get your own Bitcoin meetups going. We've got a 3-person account for meetups. I've got a Bitcoin Australia meetup in Sydney. I've got one in Melbourne. We've got the one out of Agnes Water here. Lucas has got Bitcoin Brisbane. I think it's the longest Bitcoin meetup going, I don't know, maybe in Australia. But it doesn't matter if there's 2 people in your town. I mean, tonight I've got Karen here. There's only 2 of us here in our town that have turned up tonight. But so what? I don't care if it's 1, 2, 10. Get it going in your town. Grab some wallets of Satoshis. For $1,000 or $899 US, you can get yourself a Bitcoin miner from FutureBit. If you wanted to, we're pretty keen to sort of do a bit of a bulk order. If we can buy some 10 packs. So I'll see if I can. I'll have to spin up an expression of interest or something. See if we can get some Bitcoin miners running around, throughout each town and start to do some education. It's not really the cost of your laptop running at home is probably just about the same as running a FutureBit, maybe. And at least you can teach some others and play around with the technology.
Yeah.
We have at the School of Bitcoin too, Oliver teaches people about nodes. He's working with if you've got your community going and you want a learning session just about running nodes with the Raspberry Pi and the Citadel, you can yell out to us. I'm sure
Absolutely.
Oliver would be very interested in having a chat.
Good point, actually. I'll bring that up. So we're doing tutoring over the Lightning Network. So if anyone needs tutoring, Electra's a master at accounting specifically. So if you need an accounting whiz, she's your person. I'm really specializing in security for people at the moment. So like how to secure your BTC, and whether that's with multi-sig or with hardware wallets or a combination of both, running people from sort of nothing to as secure as possible. Ollie's doing the nodes. So I think between the 2 of us, Ollie, we've probably run more nodes and more distros of of nodes than anyone in the world. But we definitely like playing around with them. And Gordon's you're an everyman pretty much, aren't you, Gordon?
I got a bit going on, but I mean, we had this idea that of getting Bitcoin certified. So looking to get a bit of a course going up through the School of Bitcoin. You can get Bitcoin certified. We don't just want our 4 faces up on this board here. We actually thought the other day, look, we should take them down because we want it to be sort of an open community. But we've got to start somewhere. There's a cool little app called Vita.page. You can set yourself up. So if you are giving some coaching, you can people can pay you in real time through the Lightning Network. So you can set one of those up. It's like a link tree, but it's a pretty cool app that we've all spun up. You can fund it with some Lightning. So if you go and use someone else's services, you can just tell them to spin up their Vita page. So it's a bit of a peer-to-peer economy there.
There's a good question in the chat, Gordon, from Joy. Can I buy a BTC miner? You're welcome to unmute yourself if you want, Joy, and have a chat. But if not, all good. Get it shipped to Ghana. Yeah, I guess we could. How do we go about that?
Yeah, look, Joy, just check it out. Let's touch base after. Where did you join our meetup tonight? Did you see it on?
He said he was just Googling blockchain and meetups, and we came up, so he joined in. Very cool.
Yeah, cool. I'll drop the
Discord, maybe might be the best place.
Yeah, you can jump into Discord. You can also email us at the Digital Playhouse.
Good idea.
Blog there. And for all our future events, we're going to events like that. There's a whole host of events we run there, but we're all, this is all a philanthropic exercise here at the moment, but we hope to create a bunch of jobs out of it. And really focused on regional areas. So you might be in a suburb in a city and you might call that regional, but in your own little pocket to get off zero, have some fun.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
Yeah.
help others.
Well, Christian and everyone, I'm gonna have to drop. I gotta attend to the kids. Gordon, sorry, I keep saying Christian. I really enjoyed tonight. I hope everyone got something out of it. Yeah, like I said, I did start the meetup in March 2013. I thought it was late then. Ash, to full disclosure, Ash and Tam from Coin Jar started the first one in Melbourne, I think a couple of months before me, and that was inspiration for me.
I was there.
I reached out to Asher and he goes, yeah, and he sponsored the first one. I think it was like 2 Bitcoin he sent over to pay for the bar tab.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was all fun, like I said, but I guess it's never too late. Oh, I thought it was too late. Encourage people, like I said, come along. Also encourage people, if they do come, to help out whatever way, promote it, stay back, pick up some rubbish after. It all helps. It's all community. Everyone does it, volunteers. And it's everyone, it's up to everyone to, try and change the world through this stuff. And everyone has their own little part. If you're not a tech or whatever, you can do things to contribute. So yeah, like I said, remit up to the grassroots, in my opinion. So yeah, hats off to everyone who's stood up and done something in any part. So it's all appreciated. So thanks everyone for having me tonight, and yeah, looking forward to the next one and maybe
Thanks,
coming up to
Lucas.
Angus Waters. So appreciate it.
Great work.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lucas. Just dropped the Discord there. So yeah, unless anyone's got anything else, we'll say good night. Drop us an email. First Thursday of every month. Normally we had to shift around the dates, but keep an eye on our events channel. I dropped the School of Bitcoin Twitter handle in there as well. I just dropped the Discord channel there. So drop in, let us know what you're up to.
One last thing. Sorry, Gordon. For whoever was left. New podcast with Amber. So if you want to listen to this, it's going up. I think they're all going up this week. So I've got three or four in the bag already, and I've got some cool ones coming up. Probably my best interview I think I've ever done last week. It was so exciting. Orange pilling someone who's never really used Bitcoin or even heard much about it. Quite a famous dude as well. So yeah, check out Get Off Zero if you get a chance.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. See you later.
Your time.
Pleasure. Ciao.
Bye.